Hello, we are Team 5 and we will be presenting on performance management using the Southwood school case. I am Jocelyn Hines and I will be talking about the key players as well as the summary of the case. So, before I proceed with the summary of the case, I think it's really important to outline some of the key players of the case. So, some of the key players of the case are our teaching staff, which we'll also refer to as appraisers, and our non-teaching staff, which we'll also address as our appraisees, and that includes administrators, teaching assistants, learning mentors, science technicians, computer technicians, and finance managers. And last but not least, we'll also refer to our HR manager as the trainer. So, I'm going to give a quick synopsis of the Southwood School performance management case. So, Southwood School is a public mixed comprehensive secondary school located in United Kingdom that serves students ages 13 to 18. Southwood School noticed their old performance management system was ineffective and there was no HR manager to manage the system. Southwood School eventually hired an HR manager and created a new performance management system with feedback from teachers and support staff. Some of the issues with the old system were short notice of meetings, no clear objective for the meetings, out-of-date job descriptions, unnecessary documentation, lack of knowledge of training and professional development opportunities, no preparation between teacher, staff, and support staff. The locations of the meetings, the meetings were traditionally held in public spaces, and so with the new system, they transitioned into private spaces. And the appraisers and the appraisees were not necessarily familiar with the job descriptions of the support staff. So with the old system, they were just matching random appraisers to appraisees and not necessarily matching the teaching staff with the support staff if they were in the same classroom. So the teachers might not have been completely familiar with the job duties and responsibilities of the support staff that they were actually appraising during the old system. So, through these efforts, Southwood School saw more staff participation, more employees taking advantage of training and professional development opportunities, and support staff were able to bring more skills to the organization. One of the most significant changes outlined in this case, which I think is really significant, I think is probably the main goal of why you do performance management systems this way, was so that the support staff were able to understand how their work fit into the organization holistically, and they were able to identify how they fit into the wider objective of the organization. So I think with this new performance management system, it kind of lessened the gap between teaching staff versus support staff. So not only was teaching staff feel like they were a part of the organization holistically, support staff were also able to see it with this new performance management system. And not only were they able to see how they fit into this organization, they were also able to take advantage of professional development and training opportunities so they can further, their skill sets to better contribute to Southwood School as well.
In this case study, it shows that there are many factors when evaluating staff. Evaluating the performance of staff can be a pretty difficult task. Examples in this case, that there was previously no HR personnel to design performance management systems. The past evaluations were designed by the teachers for specifically the teachers, so they didn't meet the needs of support staff or administration. In the past, a negative attitude towards evaluations and trainings that other staff members put on gave a preconceived notion that future events would go poorly and they wouldn't go as planned. Not all of the staff members' needs were addressed or met by doing performance evaluations, making it seemingly pointless to complete for some people. Overall, inconsistencies in the process led to difficult performance reviews by and for the key players. So our problem statement is that the Southwood schools have difficulty with consistency in planning and executing performance management system for all key players, which we did go over above. After review and after a review and revamp of the structure, it was completely redone by hiring HR staff for an effective performance evaluation system.
Some of the underlying issues that the Southwood School Performance Management System found during the review included a large percentage of staff members who did not meet the annual deadline to complete the appraisal process, and confusion between staff regarding what exactly needed to be completed and when it needed to be completed by. A factor that can cause this issue includes a lack of communication within the organization. There was a lack of communication between employer and employees. Therefore, the employees did not know what is expected of them. There was no policy or procedure provided to them on when and what they were supposed to be doing within the system, as well as the employees who were appraising people were also not given any policy or procedure of what they should be doing in these meetings as well. There was no formal communication to let everyone know what they were doing and make sure everyone was on the same page. And research and trends show that miscommunication is a very common issue within human resource management in general, and it's no different when it comes to nonprofits. The employees were also never given any contact information or any guidance on what to do if they were confused, which ended up they were, and they had nowhere to contact, they didn't know who to email, they didn't know who to ask on how to get it better. The next issue was staff members thought the system was a waste of time, and a trade union representative thought the system was not appropriate for all staff members. The factors that would cause this type of issue in an organization is not getting input from employees regarding the system. There was no checking in on the employees if they felt the system was beneficial to their job or if they knew what they were doing in the system. There was no pre-test or post-test done to see if anything were changed or anything like that. It was also known that this system was created for teachers, but because they didn't have an HR person, they used this system for support staff as well, which was a very difficult task. Some more issues that were found with the management system during the review was that the system was irrelevant to support staff, and appraisals were led by teachers who had little knowledge of the support staff member's job. An underlying factor of this is that they didn't train their employees correctly. Their employees, teachers or appraisers, were going into meetings trying to evaluate a job that they had no idea what their roles and responsibilities were. And I don't know how you're supposed to evaluate something when you don't know what they're even supposed to be doing. Another issue was that there was little attention paid to identifying needs, and when needs were identified, there were no follow-up actions. And a factor that could contribute to this is having no accountability. Because there was a lack of communication and then there was no training for the employees using this system, there was no way to hold someone accountable for not following up, as they didn't know what to do if they were to follow up. The appraisers were not receiving any feedback from the employees they were reviewing, so they could not even compare what they were hearing back to what was happening in the meeting. And then another issue was performance meetings were a one-way process with some performance objective established before the meeting started. Some trends and history on related issues in organizations such as this one had was nonprofit organizations are heavily mission focused and can lack focus on organization staff. Um, which as a school, majority of the employees there really care about teaching kids, and it seemed like they didn't do much to make sure that the staff was good with their jobs and they felt they were adequately trained. And it was also found in my research that nonprofit employees are actually more interested in trainings and workshops and learning more on their job than they are about compensation. Another trend that happened in this organization that will often happens in others is that they will often value exempt staff more than support staff. While the only exempt staff in this case were the teachers, So every other employee in the school was a support staff, and this program was only designed for the teachers and not anyone else in the organization. And then another issue that this system had and this organization had that a lot of other organizations have is that they didn't have a designated HR staff. It was found that it is very difficult for employees to access information and have questions regarding issues like this if there is not a designated HR staff, because no one really has an answer to give them.
So when Southwood School implemented their new performance management system, they understood that it had to be drastically different than the DFES system. So again, the old system ignored the needs of support staff. In the new system, support staff meets with the direct line manager, usually the teacher they work closest to, since they already have a deep understanding of the job position. The new system takes a more qualitative approach, meaning that no formal rating scale is used, and instead they use work tools number 1 and number 2, as well as thorough documentation of each performance management meeting. Meetings occur annually in the new system, but appraisers and appraisees are encouraged to meet periodically throughout the year. So work tool number 1 is to be completed by the appraisee prior to the meeting. It's also called the Preparing for the Performance Review form, and it ensures two-way communication is happening. So again, in the old system, the appraiser often set goals for the employee prior to the meeting. So this form helps employees to set their own goals and objectives, as well as identifying employee concerns. Work tool number 2 is to be completed by both the appraiser and the appraisee prior to the meeting. It is also called the Performance Review Meeting form, and it addresses topics like reviewing the previous year's performance and review of the job description, which needs to be up to date. Goals and objectives in the new system need to be explicitly outlined. To achieve this, the appraisee sets goals and objectives that are specific and achievable, but not phrased in broad strategic terms. Lastly, the appraiser and employee need to determine training needs to fill gaps in employee knowledge and skills. Further, all appraisees must be trained in order to implement the new system, so training is mandatory. 2 training courses are designed, one for the appraisers and one for the appraisees. The HR manager designed the new system and led the trainings. The training covers key areas such as benefits of performance management to staff, managers, and the organization, as well as characteristics of a successful performance review. So within the suggested solutions in the case study, they went with the SMART model, which outlines that goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-framed. However, after reviewing this model, we decided that there are several limitations, the biggest one being that goals set by using this model are often not challenging enough. Therefore, our recommended solution is a combination of work tools number 1 and number 2, as well as the recommended characteristics of decision-making depicted in Figure 3. So authors Dorsey and Mueller-Hansen, in a research study conducted by the Society for Human Resource Management, concur that goals set using the SMART model are often not challenging enough. Therefore, we decided to use the characteristics in Figure 3 suggested by Dorsey and Mueller-Hansen. Under this model, goals should be important to the appraisee, meaning that goals should be connected to the appraisee's interests and personal values. They also recommend limiting the number of goals to 3 to 5 so that each goal receives more attention and focus. Next, goals should also be challenging enough so that they are aspirational yet attainable. Third, goals should be specific, which includes setting a realistic and fairly short time frame for completion. And further, goals should also be within the control of the appraisee to accomplish. So appraisees should have the knowledge, tools, and resources necessary to meet their goals. So to conclude, we've come up with a number of questions to get the discussion board going. So the first question asks, should employees set their own goals in relation to performance management? Why or why not? 2, do you think when it comes to reviewing performance, there should be more than one reviewer to make it more objective? And finally, if you had to design a model for setting goals and objectives, what characteristics would you choose? Thank you.